I look forward to this time every Sunday, family. This is what I live for. You know, I mean, like, really. I breathe this. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't do it. And that is teach the truth. You know, I taught the lie for so long, you know, that I just have this burning desire in me to disseminate the truth, to try to make up for, if at all possible, the many people who I fed the lie to. One of the things that I want to start doing at the beginning of many of my lectures when I lecture, and that is try to be considerate of who may be present. So at the outset, let me say that I will probably say some things in this lecture that will be offensive to somebody. But please understand, it is not my intention to offend you. Yes. My only intention is to tell the truth. But sometimes the truth hurts. Especially when you say something that snatches the rug from under a person or crushes the foundation of what they stood on for so long. It can be painful. And many times, as a result of not knowing how to handle that pain, the messenger often becomes the target of our emotions. It's okay. I can take you being upset with me. Just do one thing for me, and that is, don't take my word for what I say. Go verify it for yourself. You'll be all right. Whenever a chick is breaking out of the shell of its ignorance, it's a tedious task, but it has to happen. The one thing I've never seen a chick break out of the shell and then run back inside it. Never seen that. Well, when you start finding out the truth, you want to go back. Yes, sir. Look at the person nearest you and say, but you can't. Once the eye of the mind has been opened, you might try to close it, but you can't. Today's message is entitled Christianity versus African Consciousness. Let me tell you how I came upon that. As a result of our experiences in the movement for African liberation, the opposition and the resistance, the expressed hatred by many over the dissemination of our story, our African story. I find out, because one person said to me, why don't you say African consciousness versus Christianity? I said, no. African consciousness has never been against Christianity or any religion. African consciousness does not have the time to be at war with. But religion itself, not just Christianity, religion, period, is at war with anything other than what it says. That's right. First thing we need to describe or define, brothers and sisters, is what is Christianity? What is it? We need, you know, a lot of people, and so I know who I'm talking to. Are there any people here today who are Christians? And don't be afraid to raise your hand if you are. Okay, thank you. Thank you, okay? Let's define what Christianity is, okay? It's some deep stuff. For many years I was a Christian and did not know how to define it. I was born into a Christian family, and I was assigned a religion called Christianity. My parents never asked me, is this what you want to do? They told me this is what you are going to do. You follow what I'm saying? What is Christianity by definition? Now, the definition that I have here, I didn't get it from Webster. This is Ray Hagin's definition. And I ask that you challenge it, analyze it, break it down, and perhaps you'll understand why I say what I say. Being that I have been blessed to have the credentials that I have, I think I have the right to give a definition as a black man with excelled academia. I don't say that to brag. I say it because I don't know who Webster was. I don't know what kind of degree, if any, Webster had. You follow what I'm saying? And so far as I'm concerned, his credentials are no greater than mine. And since I am a black man, I think I have the right to define for myself an understanding of a word. And hope it makes sense to you. And the definition of its true purpose, what did I just say? Its true purpose, Christianity may be defined as, notice what I have here, a Euro-Gentile. Let me stop right there before I go any further. What do you mean, Pastor, by Euro-Gentile? I mean, number one, it came from the Europeans. Number one. Number two, it came, and the Europeans, according to the biblical text, are Gentiles. Who did I say were Gentiles? According to the Bible, black people are not Gentiles, y'all. Now, I know we've been taught that we are, but according to the Bible, we are not. Write it down if you don't know this. Write down Genesis, the 10th chapter, verses 2 through 5. In fact, I won't just do that to you. I'm going to read it for you right quick. Genesis 2, verses 2 through 5. From the biblical perspective, it says, I'm sorry, Genesis 10, verses 2 through 5. I'll start the first verse. Now, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. What three people? Shem, Ham, now, let me say this at the outset, and I told you now, I may say some things that kind of spit outside your circle. Don't freak out on me. All right? Hear what I'm saying. Go verify what I'm saying. Ham, Shem, and Japheth never existed. From the perspective of world history.
That's right, teach.
From the perspective of the Bible, they existed. Are y'all following what I'm saying? But from the perspective of world history, not one person mentioned in the biblical text ever historically lived. So you're looking at two perspectives here. You're looking at the biblical perspective. You're looking at historical fact. Okay, that's why, brothers and sisters, not one of you in this room can go find the family of anybody mentioned in the Bible. There's no family lineage alive today of anybody. There's no grave of anybody mentioned in the Bible. So we got to learn to think from two perspectives. You got to learn to think from the perspective of fact and from the perspective of biblical mythology. You follow what I'm saying? Back to Genesis 10. It says, second verse, the sons of Japheth. Now, Japheth, by the way, from the biblical perspective, is the progenitor of the European nations. Gomer, Magog. Magog means Europe. What did I just do here? Okay. Magog means Europe. And Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. Tubal, for the brothers of the craft. You see it there? Hey, buddy, okay. Third verse, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath. We call that Germany today. Okay, 4th verse, and the sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodan, and we call that Spain today. 5th verse, it says, by these names we just named, the descendants of Japheth, were the isles of the, does anybody see what it says? By the isles of the who? Gentiles, yes. Divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue and after their families and their nations. Now, that's it for Gentiles. Yes. The next category starts in the next verse. It says, and the sons of Ham are who? Cush, which we call Ethiopia today. Who else? Miseducation, which we call Egypt or Kemet today. Who else? Phut, which we call Libya today. And Canaan, which is called Palestine today. So you see, these nationalities are not Gentiles.
That's right.
That's right. Yes.
So when I say Euro-Gentile, I mean European, Gentile, Greco-Roman. What do I mean by that? Greco. Greece, yes. The Greco-Roman culture. Roman because of the Roman Empire, living under Hellenism of that day. Psycho-philosophical. Y'all don't mind my words, do you? This is my best way I can break this down to you. Psycho, here, having to do with the mind. So when we look at this definition, we see that the Euro-Gentile, Greco-Roman, psycho-philosophical vehicle that had been put in place of spiritual and intellectual enslavement, which has as its end 3 things. Read them with me. What's the first one? The cultural and racial superiority of the people who created it. Stop right there. Everybody needs to understand religion is nothing more than the deification of a culture. Okay? And it depends on where you're born. Depends on where you're born geographically. That has a lot to do with what your religion is going to be. In other words, people born in Japan are not Christians. They're Buddhists. Follow what I'm saying? Okay? People born in Arabia. Okay? They're not Jews. They ain't Christians. They're Muslims. That's the religion of the culture. You follow what I'm saying? People born in the Western Hemisphere, they're not Buddhists by birth. When they're born, they're not Hindus, as people in India are. In the Western Hemisphere or in Europe, guess what the religion is? Christianity. It's the religion of the geographical location. Well, when you take a people who create a religion, the purpose of their creation is for their cultural and racial superiority. So when you take black folk and put them under the auspices of a Euro-Gentile religion, those black people, somewhere in the recesses of their psycho-viscera, they are subordinate. They are inferior to the creators of the religion that they practice. Are y'all following what I'm saying? But being that it happens on a subliminal basis, you don't realize it. The next thing is, what does it say? The paralysis of analysis by those who believe in it. Oh my God. What does that mean? Just what it says. Those who take on this belief system suffer from a disease that I refer to as a paralysis of analysis. You don't think. You were indoctrinated. I was indoctrinated. Now, what does that mean? That means that the church took its doctrine and put it into your mind. That's what indoctrinate means. So when you as an African African have been indoctrinated with Euro-Gentile philosophical thought, you are out of your mind. Y'all all right? Okay. The third thing, the perpetual empowerment of the agenda intended by it. What do we mean when we say perpetual? It means ongoing, ongoing, ongoing. They put a device in place that self-fuels itself, okay, to perpetual empowerment of cultural and racial superiority. Well, now we must ask, what is African consciousness? Let's break it down for you. African consciousness may be defined as a black person's state of mind. Now let's get clear here. What kind of person did I just say? Black. A black person's state of mind. Now this is very important, family. When she or he maintains intellectual vigilance as the proper posture toward some of the things you hear and read. All things? That's right. Everything your ears hear, everything your eyes see, every encounter that you experience as an African, you should have intellectual vigilance. Look at the person next to you and say, don't be weak-minded. Any scholarship which ignores the truth about the African origins of spirituality and civilization, as an African conscious brother or sister, you need to deal with that. It has no place in your African mind. When a black African who is supposed to be conscious walks around saying that Columbus discovered America, that black person is out of their mind. Now, why you say that, Pastor? Because we were all taught that he did. Look at the person next to you and say, from whose perspective? In other words, from the Spaniards' perspective, yes, he did discover America. But from the people who were already here, he didn't discover America. If anything, they'll tell you he was a mass murderer and an invader. He didn't discover anything. African consciousness is the transforming power which enables black people to capture the true sense of our soul. All my life growing up, I used to hear this verse, and when I quote it, some of you may recognize it. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his what? Soul. Exactly. And you know what? All my life, I've always applied that verse, or I should say I misapplied that verse, to thinking that it would be meaningless to gain all this wealth and go to hell. That ain't got nothing to do with that verse. When it says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? It's saying, what does it profit a person to acquire material gain and lose the awareness of who he is? That's what your soul is. Your soul is the seat of self-consciousness. You follow what I'm saying? Your spirit is the seat of God consciousness. Your body is the seat of earth consciousness. But in your soul is your awareness of yourself. And if you don't know who you are, your soul is lost. And got nothing to do with going to heaven, people. African consciousness is when a black person becomes, read what I have underscored here. What does it say? Totally changed to what? A conscious level of involvement in the struggle for their own and others' mind, liberation, and empowerment. Family, if you are not completely, totally involved in doing whatever needs to be done for the liberation and empowerment of your African mind, you are not African conscious. Too many people want to appear to be African conscious. You ain't African conscious. I went to a store the other day, African garment store here in St. Louis, and when I went into the store, the owner was talking about people walking around saying "Ashe." Alright, maybe you didn't recognize me, whatever, that was fine with me. And I overheard him talking about people talking about Hotep and Ashe. I said, he must be talking about the African village. I mean, you know, talking about all this stuff. And, you know, and I wanted to address him, but I wasn't there for that. You know, and it's deep how you sell African garments, but you ain't African conscious. You know, you want to merchandise off of Africa, but you hate Africa. This is the last Sunday of the month of February this year, and I saw a lot of church folk wearing African attire today because their pastor has given them the permission to dress in African attire, but just only for today. Y'all hear what I'm saying here? Why, the word "is" should be there, why is Christianity and African consciousness in opposition to each other? And look at the person next to you and say, they are in opposition to each other. But now a lot of people don't understand why they're in opposition to each other. And if you don't understand why they are in opposition to each other, then you are futile or futile in your endeavors. So let me break it down to you. Because one is about conquering and controlling an individual. I'll say it again. One of them is about conquering and controlling an individual. The other is about the growth and personal development of an individual.
That's right.
Well, Pastor, what gives you the right to say that? Truth, facts, documentation. At the Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD. Now, how many of y'all have ever heard of the Council of Chalcedon before? I know if you've been here any time, you have. All right. Before you came here, how many of y'all heard about it?
Never.
That's what I'm talking about. There you go, just a few hands. See, this is what our black ministers need to be teaching our black people.
That's right.
This is not myth. This is fact.
Yes.
The Council of Chalcedon in the year 451 AD. And notice what I have here. The Ecumenical Council of what church? What church, y'all? Of the Roman Catholic Church. Here's what their minutes read. This is from that council meeting. This wise and saving creed, the gift of divine grace. Now notice what they put in their own document. Was sufficient for a perfect understanding and establishment of religion.
Look at this.
That's in their minutes. It goes on to say, for its teaching about the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit is complete, and it sets out the Lord's becoming human to those who faithfully accept it. Now, if he became human, whether you accept it or not, he became human. But it says here, it sets out the fact that he became human to those who accept it. Look at the person next to you and say, it's about faith. When it comes to religion, it's about faith. Now look back at that person and tell them this. When you have knowledge You don't need faith. I'm holding a can of Altoids in my hand. Do you believe it?
I say.
No, bro, you know it. You look at it, you ain't got to believe it. I'm holding it. Here's the evidence. I wouldn't dare ask you to believe on the can of Altoids that I may be holding in my hand. Now, if I do like this and say, I'm holding a can of Altoids in my hand, do you believe it? Now you have no choice. Because the evidence is not before you. You follow what I'm saying? When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Ain't that what Stevie said? Superstition ain't the, you got it, ain't the way. Since we, this is continuing on in that document, since we, and who's we in this? Catholic bishops. Since we have formulated these things with all possible accuracy and attention, the sacred and universal synod decrees. Now check this out, brothers. Check this out, sisters. What does it say? No one is permitted to produce or even to write down or compose any other creed or to think or teach otherwise. That's why that look is on that brother's face. What you mean I can't even think other than what y'all tell me to think? That's what religion does. Religion does not teach you how to think, it tells you what to think. And if somebody comes along like Brother Ray and say, man, listen, you've been taught wrong, you want to get angry with Brother Ray. You want Brother Ray to drop dead of a heart attack. You want Brother Ray to be anathema. And you're going to see what that means in a few too. It goes on to say, as for those who dare either to compose another creed or even to promulgate or teach or hand down another creed, for those who wish to convert to a recognition of the truth from Hellenism or from Judaism or from any kind of heresy at all, if they be bishops or clerics, in other words, I don't care who you are, the bishops are to be deposed from the episcopacy and the clerics from the clergy. If they be monks or lay folk, they are to be anathematized. And that is from what council meeting? Council of Chalcedon. Don't take my word for it. Write it down. Go to the internet. Type in Council of Chalcedon 451 and read it for yourself. Anytime an organization puts a document like that in place, then that ought to make you suspect. When they tell you you can't even think anything other than what they tell you to think. That's control, man. What does it mean to be anathematized? A lot of people don't know what that means. Now I want to show y'all something. Anathema, it's a word used in the biblical text. It means a thing devoted to God. What does it say, y'all? Without hope of being redeemed. Man, who gives these Catholic bishops the right to say that I'm committing you to the wrath of God and there's no hope for redemption for you because you don't hold to our doctrine? And if an animal, and by the way, y'all, they do think that we're how we're 2/3 or 1/3 human, how they call us? Yeah, that's why they was able to lynch us with a clear conscience, because they saw us as on the level of animals. Yes, 3/5 of a human being. Thank you. To be slain. That's what anathema means. Therefore, a person or thing doomed to destruction. Notice what the part B says. A man or woman accursed, devoted to the direst of woes. Somebody get 1 Corinthians 16:22. Now, I'm going to show you why some of y'all are having such a hard time trying to communicate this thing of African liberation. What does 1 Corinthians 16:22 say? Somebody can get it, read it nice and loud. What does it say?
If any man love not the Lord.
Uh-oh, wait a minute, Doc. Nice and loud. Say it again.
If any man love not the Lord Jesus Christ, let him be anathematized.
Uh-oh. Y'all hear that? The Bible says, if any man love not the Lord Jesus Christ, let him be anathematized. Now, chances are when most people say it like that, they don't even know what they're saying. You know, they don't know what it means. They can't even spell it. Okay? But they know it ain't a good thing. What a thing to say. Look at the person next to you and say, that's called religious prejudice. What a thing to say. Who gave them the right to say that? If any man love not the Lord Jesus Christ, let him be anathematized. Now, look back at history with me, our story. You mean to tell me that black Africans that have lived for the last 85, 90,000 years, who knew nothing about this Roman Catholic program of Christianity, Almighty God has doomed them to destruction? No. I don't think so. Now, mind you, I used to think so because I didn't know any better. But now that I know better, I understand that African spirituality, African consciousness does not condemn somebody else because they are on their level of awareness. The Golden Stool, Edwin W. Smith states on page 173, and this is in the Christianizing of Africa, by the way. Here's what he said. To win a people for Christ, it is necessary to do what? I'm not making this up, family. That's why I put this up here, to show you the research. Go check it out for yourself. Get the book, The Golden Stool, and read it. On page 173, they actually state, and this is a Christian missionary, he states, in the colonizing of the African continent, he writes, in order to win a people to Christ, it is necessary to Europeanize them. What does that mean? Behind all systems of administration lies the fundamental question, check this y'all, of what we intend to make of the African. Do y'all see this? This question has, whether in explicit terms or not, been answered in several ways. One possible and largely practiced policy is that of repression, which means keeping the native or keeping the African in a subjected and inferior position. Do y'all see this? Yes. In other words, keep him in his own place. As a mere, in the book it has the word serf. I looked it up, it means slave. Of what race? There it is, people. Yes, sir. Like it or not. And the most effective device, family, that has been used to accomplish this European agenda is the religion that was forced upon our African ancestors. This religion is called Christianity. I want y'all to know something. We did not respond to an altar call. We were kidnapped. Chains put around our neck, shackles around our neck, our wrists, and our ankles. And this was forced upon our ancestors. This religion called Christianity is a very effective device. Look at this. Look at it, people. Look real good. This is a drawing of what's called a plantation worship service. Who's preaching? What color is it? Black preacher. Preaching to black slaves But look who's watching. Why do you think he's sitting there? To make sure that this black preacher says what he wants him to say. That's it right there. Now it's really deep. Some of y'all sitting here right now, look at this picture and say, I see it. And you see it because of the visual aid in front of you. But yet some of you sitting here are going to go right out of this place and go sit up in a white congregation, mixed congregation, and go through the same thing. Or you're going to have a black preacher, just like this, standing up there telling you what these people here want him to say. I know what I'm talking about. I was one of them. That's me, y'all, by the way. I got hair. That's back in the day, okay? Yeah, that's back in the day when I traveled all over this country preaching that program. Oh, man, I was on my way up the ladder. I was about to be rich, Brother Hype. I was about to become a district elder, presiding bishop of a jurisdiction. There you go. Look at me, man. Woo! Those are the days when I was a safe Negro. Those are the days. I remember, let me tell y'all, and it's almost embarrassing to say it, but I want y'all to see where I came from. I used to be what they called the Black Robert Schuller. A black degreed theologian. A good boy in their program. Boy, if they had only known what God had in store for me. Woo, they never would have gave me those credentials. Look at that. Boy, I tell you. I remember them days. Edwin Smith, my soul looked back and wondered. Mom said, how I got over, right? Yeah. Mom, you know what? When I was like that, ain't nobody give me no trouble. I wasn't a threat to nobody, Brother Penny. I wasn't no threat to nobody. Now everybody loved me. I had big church. A lot of money. At this point, I had my second Mercedes, man. And still had the first one. Yeah, let me move on. Edwin Smith says on page 186, the first method of colonizing the African begins by doing what? Destroying the institutions, tradition, religion, and habits of the people. And then superimpose upon the ruins whatever the governing power considers to be a better administration system. The other method, while checking the worst abuses, tries to, check out what he says, to graft our higher civilization. What a thing to say. How dare them say that they had or have a higher civilization. Man, when Africans were in the zenith of sciences and agriculture and horticulture and mathematics and religion and philosophy and music, when we were in the zenith of these things, these folk were crawling around on all fours in the caves up in Europe. And then they want to say, and molding them into a form consonant with our modern ideas and higher standards. That's psychopathic racism. This is a Christian missionary, though, called Edwin W. Smith. And we have therefore become, look at us now. There we are. We have these books in the information center, don't we? All right, I encourage you to get your copy if you don't have it. We've come, look at us, man, look at us. We out-white white people. That's right. Those of us who don't know any better. That's right. One of the most effective ways to suppress a people is by putting a device in place that will disassociate those people from their God, from their spirituality, from their culture, and their history. So what did they do? They put a device in place that would ensure their perpetual empowerment over the minds of those whom they deceived. Look at the device. What was the device? There it is. Look at this. In her mind, these are naked savages. And guess what? In some of your minds, who are still under that influence, you see your own people as savages. If you go over there and see how hot it is, you get undressed too. Shucks. Here, this missionary, and this of course is an old picture, you see that. Here this missionary is carrying out her mission of winning the savages to Christ. That was the device back then. Here's the same device today. Same device. Y'all see it? Sometimes I just like to let the picture speak for itself. See, once you know how to see, as soon as you see it, it stands right out clear. There it is. Look at him. Look at him. That's still the device, and now look at it. The device is what? Self-perpetuating. Here we have an African woman. She sewed and made that cross and put it up there. She don't need the white man in front of her now. It's been put into her mind. I mean, look at our people. Look at what the Roman Catholic Church did to Africans. That ought to make your heart hurt. Because we're dealing with this same psychosis, brothers and sisters, right now, here today in St. Louis and everywhere else around this country. But as long as God gives me air to breathe, I'm going to do everything I can to snatch down every brick of that lie till that wall comes down and our people are free. I'm serious, brother. Due to a mental disease called selective amnesia, we have allowed ourselves to see the enemy of our ancestors as our friend. Can you not see our ancestors in the rafters of the universe looking down on those of us who don't know any better, saying, when will our children wake up? Yes. European history's principal function. Remember, I told you African consciousness is having intellectual vigilance, brothers and sisters. European history's principal function is to first separate us from the reality of ourselves. Yes. To separate us from the reality of the world. To separate us from the reality of our story, and to separate us from the power and ramifications of our story. That's the principal function of European historiography. And anytime they take Eurocentric historiography and put it into the recesses of the African mind, you lose your mind. Yes. For over 2,000 years. How long? For over 2,000 years, we have wholeheartedly accepted the Eurocentric idea of religious thought, and we're still not liberated. We're still not saved. And by the way, that's what saved means. It means to be liberated. And where has it gotten us as a people? More confused than ever. Check this out. Look at that. Now, this really takes the cake here. What's wrong with that picture? Remember I showed y'all a few Sundays ago how to find the hidden picture? Well, you ain't got to look too far to see what's wrong with this picture. The name of this church is Christ Memorial African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. AME Zion Church. What's wrong going with this picture? It has the Jinyame, which is an Adinkra symbol of ancient Africa, which means only God. That's what the Jinyame means. It's an Adinkra symbol. But how in the world did they intertwine the cross of the Roman Catholic Church into the Jinyame? How did they do that? Because we're more confused now than ever. Look at the person next to you and say, you cannot learn truth through the lenses of the lie. That's how that happened. You had Christianized Africans who came to the realization of their African selves and their culture. So instead of getting rid of the European culture, they blended the two together. That's some deep stuff, man. But they don't know any better. Look at the person next to you and say, the mind cannot teach what it does not know. The need today, and this is Sister Kemp, here's the answer to the question you asked earlier. The need today is for black Africans who have been divinely called out and set apart for the particular purpose and or mission of liberating, resurrecting, and empowering other black Africans. The need today is for them to get serious about their assignment and stop being distracted and start bringing forth some fruit. That's the need today. But how you going to bring forth fruit if you keep getting distracted? And how you going to stop being distracted if you don't know what your assignment is? I challenge you today, brothers and sisters, what is your assignment? What did God put you on this planet for? Why did God let you come out of your mama's womb? To sit up in church with a big hat on and look good? To drive that fine car? Why did God let you come out of your mother's womb? To run up in here to see who's sleeping with who? To see what's going on in somebody else's life? If that's what you think you're about, to hell with you. Because that's where you're on your way, brother. That's where you're on your way to, sister. You ain't got time to be wasting time. Our children are dying in the streets, man. I'm going up this week to walk in a fugitive who wants to turn himself in. We were supposed to do it earlier this past week on Thursday, and unfortunately his grandfather passed away Wednesday night. So after the funeral, he wants to turn himself in. He said, Brother Ray, I want to get my life together. He has all this African consciousness knowledge, but his life ain't together. Look at the person next to you and say, information about Africa ain't enough. You got to have the power that goes along with it. And you can't fight in bondage. You got to be free to fight. So free your African mind. Find out what your assignment is, so you stop being distracted, so you can bring forth fruit. Christianity and African consciousness are 100% incompatible, family. So what do? Uh-oh. I got 11 minutes. We must realize that we've been conquered in the name of Jesus.
That's right.
Bear with me now. I don't mean no harm. I'm trying to set you free. I know you think you already, see, you know, one of the things how do you set a person free who already thinks they're free? Only thing I can do is bring you our African story so you can see what's been going on. We've been conquered, y'all, in the name of Jesus. You say, well, what's wrong with that? Here, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's right here in this symbol. How many of y'all have seen this in churches? It's usually hanging right down over the podium. Right? Well, a lot of y'all think that that's the crown that you get as a result of bearing your cross. That's what we've been taught. If you don't bear your cross, you don't get no crown. James Cleveland messed us up with that song. If you can't stand to be talked about sometimes, cry sometimes, and then the part, there'll be no cross, no cross, no crown. Many of us know songs more than we know scripture. And we think the song is the scripture. Here's the whole meaning behind this symbol. And it is a Masonic symbol. Latin words, in hoc signo vinces. Now, in the churches where you've seen this, you only saw the letter I, H, and S. And you thought it meant in his service. That's not what it means. They took off the V. It used to be IHSV, but they took off the V because that's the giveaway right there, the word vinces. In means in, hoc means this, signo means sign, as you see there, S-I-G-N. Vinces means to be victorious or to conquer. So in Latin this says, under this sign we shall conquer. Y'all got it? That's what it's about, family. It's about conquering other lands and nations. Look at George Bush. Can't give you a better example than that. He is now the president and chief minister. that sounds funny as hell to me. He is now the president and chief minister of the new Holy American Christian Church. George Bush. I'd like to see him try that. Understand that there's a war going on. Look at it. That used to be me. And it's a whole lot of our brothers right now. Now, is that a bad thing? Well, let's put it this way. It's not for our good. But it's not bad because his intent is sincere. Did y'all follow what I said? He genuinely believes he's right. Yes, he does. I was there. How many of y'all were there? And when you were there, you genuinely believed you were right. You see what he's doing? He's holding up the crucifix. I give my life for this. Everybody say this with me. I will stand on everything I believe today. Even if I have to change it all tomorrow. Right knowledge brings change. I've pledged my commitment and my time to reaching my brothers and letting them know that they are betraying their great-great-grandmama. They are betraying their great-great-grandfather. If our African ancestors could see the stand that we now take for the oppressor that lynched them and kidnapped them and raped them, their heart would bleed in pain. Here you have the other side of the war. Look at this young girl. in the process of indoctrination. She's being molded into their program. Don't allow, brothers and sisters, the dedicated ignorance of others. What kind of ignorance did I say? Don't allow the dedicated ignorance of others to extinguish the flame of your inspiration and motivation. I know sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes you're trying to share what you've come to learn with other people, and I don't want to hear that. Get away from me. Satan, the Lord rebuke you. You're a deceiver. You come to hinder. I plead the blood against you. And you don't want to hear that. You don't want to keep getting beat up like that. But don't let that put your flame out. Yes. When you understand that your people are dying, yes, sir, by the thousands per day, find a way to reach them with the truth. Next, we must break the last bond of slavery. That's the slave master's religion. Stop perpetuating the lie. Like my brother said, how can you keep telling that lie when you know you gotta die? Ain't that heavy, y'all? Know our story. These books are in the information center. Get them. Don't just look at them on the screen. Get them. The information's already there. Don't be asking, well, Lord, show me the truth. Get the book and read it. Lord, show me the truth. Tell you a story that old preacher told me what they call Bible study. This ain't funny, but I have to share it with you because of the message in it. Old preacher was explaining to me what Bible study is for a black man. Read a verse and say, read it again. Read it again. And read it again. That's what they call Bible study for a black man, because black folk eventually end up saying, well, now let me tell you what I get out of that verse. Y'all remember in Sunday school, that's how folk used to talk? Well, let me tell you what I get out of that verse. And by the time I go around to 20 different people, you got 20 different meanings of what that verse means. Where did the concept of a Trinity originate? I got 3 minutes. Let me rush through this. There it is, people. That's the first concept of the Trinity on the planet. Yes. Asar, Aset, and Heru. Yes, when the Europeans went into Africa and they saw this, they couldn't take it, they couldn't handle it. So they got rid of that female over there, because they have a problem with the female principle. And what was once Father, Son, and Mother became Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. You follow what I'm saying? What is the truth about the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus? Well, here's the truth back here to ancient Africa, 10,000 years BC. That's evidence. That ain't faith. That little statuette is in the Nubian Museum in Aswan. I took the picture myself. You got the picture, brother? Africans who had the whole concept of Madonna and Child that the Roman Catholic Church stole and copied. Stop believing in the lie. Mother, understand that you have the greatest ministry on this planet. There's nothing greater than the ministry of the black African mother. God put all of her power in your hands. And notice I said her power when I said God. We didn't start saying he or father until the Europeans came into Africa. We must Sankofa return to our ancient scriptures and writings. And here you have the text we use here at the village, Lucia and the book of Coming Forth by Day. Both of those are in the information center. Get them, read them, learn, develop yourself. Yes. We must honor the ministry of our ancestors. They've been, I'm telling y'all, I remember the first time we gave those to the ancestors here at the African village. On my way home that day, I said, oh, the service was powerful. And the ancestor spoke to me and said, we've been here all the time, waiting to help you. You just was ignoring us. You didn't acknowledge us. Yeah, buddy. Understand the symbology and true meaning of the cross. And of course, that's right here in Illinois. That giant cross. Y'all see them little people down there at the bottom? That's a big, man, you ride down the highway and come up on this thing, almost make you have an accident, scare you so bad. Understand the meaning, and I'm out of time. I can't go into that right now. That's another lecture in itself. And don't be afraid, for those of you who are visiting, don't be afraid to incorporate your African self.